This riff takes me right back to my childhood. I remember this band, Midnight Oil, great band, produced a lot of hits, but one in particular I used to love learning the guitar riff. The song was called Beds Are Burning. Now, this song was written in 1987, or was released in 1987, and it was a pretty easy guitar part. So for me, when I was young and learning, it was pretty easy to figure out. So let's go through, explain how it's written, and I'll show you the notes for it. Now, first of all, the rhythm is based on a quaver or eighth note rhythm. So that means twice per beat. So you're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it just continues that pretty well the way through for the riff section of the song. Now, the key would be based around an E minor blues scale, right, which is an E minor pentatonic with an extra note. Let me explain how that works. Now, if I'm in the key of E, I'd start on E as my tonic, so it's my main note, and I go up a tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 then a semitone. So you can see you start on E, end on E, which is what you always do for a major scale, and I'll end up with E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Now the pentatonic is always built from that scale on the 1, the flat 3, the 4, the 5, and the flat 7. So in that, E would be the 1, the third note was going to be G sharp, so a flat 3 would be the G here. The 4 of the scale was the A, the 5 is the B. Now the 7th of the scale was going to be here, the D sharp, so a semitone down would bring it to a D. So that's pretty well the notes of this song. Now, I'll show you how to play the notes in a second, but one other thing is he does put an extra note in between the 4 and the 5 here, which turns it into a blues scale. So you describe that as a flat 5. So that note there would be B flat. And the other note is it's also got the second in here. Now the second of the scale was the F sharp. Now normally that's not in there, the second in a blues scale, but it works quite well in the song. I've heard it called a hexatonic scale when you put in the second. Terminology, it's not too important with that, but it's just going to be the second note of the key. So it's kind of almost following the natural minor scale. The natural minor scale doesn't have the flat 5 in it, so that note really gives it that bluesy tone. So I'll show you how to play it on the guitar. Now the notes here, we're in the key of E and it's all built on this 6th string here, just on the E. So if that's the 1 of the scale, now the major scale would normally go up a tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So remember, a tone is 2 frets apart, semitone is just the 1. Now if that's the 1, the 2, the 3, we actually want this note in between here, that's the flat 3. That was the 4, the 5. Now the blues note was this one in between the 4 and the 5 here. So that gives you that bluesy tone. And then you got the 5, the 6 would be here, there's your flat 7. Now we don't want the 6 in this riff, and we don't actually use the flat 7, but it is in key, so which would be the same note as back here. And then there's my octave again. So the pentatonic would just be, and then the blues scale would be with that bluesy passing note in there, right? And then the 2 would be this note here, which is the other one they put into the riff. So the riff, very slowly, you start off with the open note here twice, and then you're going to play this flat 5 to the 5. Now I would suggest I use my 2nd and my 3rd finger, just because I'm going to use my 1st for another note in a minute. So you're going to go open, open, 6th fret, 7th fret, and you do that twice in a row, and that's the first bar, so 8 notes, and you're counting at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now the next part, into the next bar, you play the open twice again, then you're going to play this 4th of the scale. Now I'm going to call it by the notes of the scale because it's the best way, it's the musical way to get to know it. It is the 5th fret, but it is the 4th of the key, which is the A, and you're going to go from there to that flat 5 again. So up to there it would go. And now the last bit, you're going to play the open twice, then there's that flat 3rd of the scale to the 2nd, which is 3rd fret to the 2nd fret. So the whole riff slow would sound like this. And then it just repeats. Now the tempo is about 120, so I'll play it up to tempo, and just before we do it, just a little bit of a performance idea. It is quite heavily muted, so as you hear it, okay, I'm going to be putting the back part of my palm here onto just the edge of the string, and you've got to find that sweet spot. Like if you go too far up, you get too much mute. If you go back too far, you lose your mute, so just find where it sounds the best. And it's got a little bit of drive on it, so I'll stick a little bit of overdrive. So this is what it would sound like up at tempo. So there you have it. So that's the notes of it. Now, make sure you practice that really slow, work your way up to your 120. The fingering is not that important, but just to make it the easiest to play, as I said before, I was using my second and my third. When I go to these two notes, that leaves my first and second ready. Then I move my hand down to the second position, and I'm going to go second finger to first finger. So fingering, it's very good to practice it the right way, and efficiency, always trying to plan your fingering out so you get the least amount of moves. So really you'd say you're in the fifth position, and you're moving down here to the second position for the other part. It's always numbered by where your first finger is. So have a lot of fun with that riff. So that was Midnight Oil's Beds Are Burning. Very simple riff, but sounds very cool. So have fun with that one.